6. It's our last week together. You have done an incredible job. And if you're sitting here finishing out this course, you've done some of the homework, maybe not all of it, give yourself a huge pat on the back. That was kind of my shoulder, but a pat on your back for doing this for you. No one else but you. And, others are going to possibly benefit from you being more mindful and in tune with yourself, more creative and powerful, all-knowing, intuitive, as we said in the last episode. But I want you to know that you've done this for you, and I hope that you're as proud of yourself as I am of you. So, before we go any further, let's do our 3 minutes-ish breathing exercise. I'd like you to get into a comfortable sitting position or laying down, whatever is most comfortable. And I want you to tune into the breath, the in and out, not changing anything. Our breath is always with us. If you're feeling hurried, upset, the breath is always with us. And you can bring your attention to the breath and take a pause, as we're doing now, and feel that groundedness and that centeredness in your body. Bringing your attention to the space around your heart. As you breathe in, allowing the air to wrap around the heart. And in a sense, your body is doing this, utilizing the oxygen. Utilizing the oxygen to help your muscle cells expand and contract, to allow the heart to operate. Without your lungs, your heart would not continue. So envisioning as you breathe in, the air encircling around your heart, and the warm air being released, perhaps moving in the opposite direction. Continuing to visualize your heart being hugged by your air. And as your mind wanders, bringing your attention back to your breath. Perhaps taking a moment here as you continue to inhale and exhale, encircling your heart, taking a moment to thank your heart for all that it does, for its life, for its continuity, for its strength, for its consistency. And now, taking a moment to move the breath wherever it needs to go in your body. Perhaps certain spots are more achy than others, giving them a little TLC. And bringing your attention back to the noises that surround you. Perhaps the furnace, the air conditioner, cars, street noise. And when you're ready, opening your eyes. Great job. So today, our final session is talking about the power of circle. But before we do that, I want to ask you, obviously you're not going to tell me right away, but maybe you're going to email me, and please do. I keep asking. And but how did it go? How did the play go? Did you feel ridiculous? Did you feel awesome? Did you sort of touch on that flow state? It could be totally fleeting. Flow doesn't always last forever. Flow can be seconds. I felt flow when I'm skiing before. And then, that can quickly change into pure terror before you run over someone on the hill. I especially felt that when I was learning to ski. Skiing was mostly pure terror up until a certain point. And then your skill starts to match demand, and then your skill, you get cocky, and then you go to a black diamond and you're like, holy shit, I'm going to die. And so, it's rebuilding that flow state for each level of challenge as you build up that muscle. And so flow state may not last forever. But play and tuning into play is a wonderful thing to do as an adult, and something we don't do enough, and myself included. But I do try to do it with my kids. I do try to do silly walks when they're eating breakfast, or hop around like a frog and play hide and seek. There are things I really do try to tap into. I'm not always so good at the make-believe play, but I think there are other ways that we can find our playfulness, connect to that deep sense of ourself, reacquaint ourselves with our inner child, and really tap into our spirituality. And perhaps tapping into your spirituality is done very differently, but would love to hear how your time went last week, and also how lake and mountain meditation are working for you. So today, as I said, we're talking about the power of circle. And what the heck does that mean? Why are we talking about circles? So the reason we're talking about circles is I keep seeing the theme show up in my retreats. In all of the photos, the ways we connect with one another at the retreats that I facilitate, it is with circle. We come together to talk in circle, we yoga in circle, we dance in circle, we go around in fire in circle. It just keeps coming up. And so I thought about it in a bigger way. That circle, we have the sun, the moon, the earth. We have these beautiful systems that keep us alive and house us. And then, as I said, at a more kind of human level, we have the power of circle, whether it's story time or around a fire. You know, a lot of our community is built in circle. And then at a smaller level, we have cells. And at an even smaller level, we have atoms. And so the power of the circle, this system continues to show up in our life. And that the cells are part of a system within our body, a circle, if you will. And it's a system, an open system that takes in information and gives out information, but it's a circle that realigns itself, comes back to homeostasis. It's always the goal with your body, to come back to balance. And I think that to me is what a circle represents, is that the end always comes back to the start. And I think it's something to think about as we move into this conversation around community and bringing people into our practice. Because for the last 5 weeks, we've largely focused, outside of maybe the play aspect and hobbies, which may involve other people, we've really focused on us, the individual, bringing in new tools to help us manage our stress better. And those are awesome. These are great things to do. But we can't do it in isolation. We need community. We need people around us to support us, to hold our hand and hold us through challenging times in our lives. Or maybe when we're implementing a new behavior like meditation, and we just need someone to help guide us. So most everything I've read, listened to, participated in over the last few years, from regenerative farming to palliative care medicine to aging healthy or aging well, all talks about the power of community and the power of social support and people, that people change the way in which our brain operates. We are highly social mammals. We require other people to survive for a good chunk of our life. And so there's lots of study around the power of physical touch, and that without it, orphans die. This is some of the Russian orphanage studies that have come to light. And also the power of social support when it comes to longevity. If you haven't heard of these things called blue zones, they are spots geographically around the world where there's a high volume of centurions. And so researchers have tried to understand, what is it? Is it temperature? Is it geographic location? Is it climate? What is it? And the two top variables that determine, or the likely predictors of increased age are social support and faith. So again, the power of people, they can help us to live longer, to live more robust lives. And another study that's come out, it's a longitudinal study, it was the NUN study, and they looked at the power of connection in helping to rewire the brain and stave off Alzheimer's. And they actually, as part of this study, they would evaluate and do autopsies and look at the brain. And what they found is that for some of the nuns who actually had Alzheimer's based on their brain structure, but weren't presenting as having Alzheimer's, they believed that part of their brain's ability to rewire itself was based on the social support and community that they had. But it also just generally shows the amazingness of our brains. So these are that's the documented research to outline why having people in your life is so important for your health and well-being and your lifespan. But when it comes to meditation, meditating with others is incredibly powerful. It builds that sense of community. It allows you to share in experiences and feel less isolated with your own. That comes up regularly at my retreats when people are like, it's just so nice to hear that other people are dealing with this shit and that I'm not alone. Okay, so there's that power of community, and it really touches on that compassion thing, that we can hold our painful experiences in balanced awareness as opposed to over-identifying with them. And other people help us to do that. The other thing is that it creates this wonderful energy attunement. We become better, more aware of ourselves, but also with the needs of others. We become more sensitive to the energies of those around us. And there's also such great power of sitting in silence with other people. It's very intimate. It's not something we typically do. Our gatherings are typically based around food or alcohol. It's amazing when you stop drinking how much you notice our social interactions are predicated on a substance, but that's a whole nother conversation. And there's some magic in sitting in silence with other people. And I think, as I mentioned it before, it's like whenever you start any type of behavior change, whether it's going to the gym or a new diet, having someone there with you holds you accountable. There's an element of that when you bring people into your practice. And so these are some of the reasons, and outside of you're going to create your own, of why we would want you to encourage you to look at building a community of practice when it comes to your meditation and your mindfulness, or any health change for that matter. The other element of being around other people is chemically, when we are in physical contact or close proximity to those that we care deeply about, or just humans in general, we release something called oxytocin. And oxytocin is the bonding hormone, and it's something they talk a lot about with new moms. But this hormone actually helps to quell that HPA axis. We've talked about it already a few episodes ago. But that's the hypothalamus pituitary adrenal pathway. So that's our stress pathway. And oxytocin, it just comes and gives that one a big old hug. And so that's something that from a chemical standpoint, that having people around us that we can receive benefit from. So these are just a few of the reasons why I think you should be building a community of practice. The research supports you building a community of practice, but you're going to have to uncover why you believe there's benefit of building a community of practice. So I've got a couple of questions for you. Who would sit in your circle? Why might it be challenging to bring people in, to ask people to join you? What are some of the barriers or blocks that are holding you back from maybe asking? Even as I raise the question or ask you or encouraging you, what's coming up for you when I'm saying this? No, I got this. I can do this on my own. I do everything on my own. I'm an island. I'm amazing. I'm a martyr. I got this. It's really hard to open up and let people in. Trust me, coming from an island, I am an island. It is really difficult for me to say, I need help here, even from my husband. Okay, and sometimes he said to me, he's like, you're so tough and, resilient. I sometimes don't know if you actually need the help. And I'm like, of course I do. I just don't want to always ask for it. Okay, so I understand how difficult it is to open up and let people in, but that's what this is all about. You've done some serious self-growth over the last 6 weeks. This is the next stage. This is the stage that I think is absolutely paramount in order for you to continue doing this. And I really encourage you to give it some serious thought. So as we close out on our final session, I have some tips and ideas to help you continue the practice outside of building that community. However, that is going to be your homework, just FYI. So I'd like you to take a moment and close your eyes. And I want you to think back to the answer you had when I asked you, what do you want to get out of this course? And if you can't quite remember it, you can open one eye and look at your journal at the very beginning, flip through the pages. And, asking yourself, was I able to meet this objective? Did I achieve what I wanted to get out of it? And if you didn't quite get there, I'm just saying that's okay. We got lots more time. You've got lots more time. I'm not trying to get myself off the hook if I didn't help you achieve your objective, and you need to let me know. But you have more time. So if it was around finding more peace, the question would be, did you find a little bit more peace? So as you think about it, I want you to think more about the feeling that you're hoping to achieve by bringing meditation and mindfulness more regularly into your life. And maybe you've already got a taste of what that feeling is. And I want you to really focus on the feeling that you're aiming towards, that you're trying to cultivate on a more consistent basis. How does that feel in your body, in your gut, in your chest, maybe even in your toes? What do you feel in your mind? What are you experiencing in your mind once you're at that stage? And maybe you're like, I don't know what it feels like because I haven't got there yet. That's okay. Secondly, I want to encourage you to erect some very firm boundaries. If you want this to become a part of your daily practice, then you have to make it happen. You cannot rely on those around you, even your loved ones, even your most supportive peeps. If you don't ask for it, you're not going to get it. If you don't carve it out and make it intentional, you're not going to get it. You tell other people and you give them information on how they need to treat you. And so it's really important to think about this as you build out your schedule and how you want to integrate this in a meaningful way. Don't just say, yeah, I'll get to this next week. You have to be intentional with your time, and you have to be intentional with your boundaries. I want you to think about some of the common barriers that come up for you when you implement change. So you've been going through change over the last 6 weeks. We've been talking about barriers, but what are some of those blocks, those pieces of armor that are still up there for you, that are still potentially going to interfere with your ability to integrate this in a meaningful way? Spend some time thinking about that. Start listening to your body. We've talked a little bit about how to do that through body scan, creating space through different visualization exercises, getting active, thinking about it from chakras, paying attention to your gut, being mindful of what you eat. There's a lot of ways in which we can start to better listen and tune to our body, and that will help us to continue the practice, because once we start to realize, I feel better, we're more likely to want to keep doing it, right? If you don't pay attention to how you feel after you eat something, then you're not going to know, okay, if I eat cheese, it typically upsets my stomach, all right? If I stop eating cheese, I don't feel as crappy. I know stopping eating cheese is really hard, okay? Create a circle. We've already talked a little bit about that today and the importance and the power of circle. Plan for the fall. You are going to fall off the meditation bandwagon, all right? It is going to happen. And you need to be ready and prepared for that. And that's why we were doing that self-compassion work. It's so important that you prepare for the fall and go back to the basics when you do. You have access to this course forever. All right. So when all else fails, come back, reconnect. We're here for you. You will always have access to the audio recordings as well. And so these are things that you can put on your phone and you can leverage and utilize in any space. Or simply just come back to the 3-minute breathing exercise. You saw that every week we kind of went on a different journey with it. It's not a one-size-fits-all. It's not the same formula every single time. Keep it simple. KISS method. Keep it simple, stupid. Not that you're stupid. And so these are some methods and ways in which to prepare for and to help you continue the practice. There are so many more things to keep in mind when you're moving into this space to help you do it. And I think that if you sometimes need a little bit of a reward, if the meditation isn't a reward enough at the outset, which I can understand because it can be hard and challenging and painful at moments, then maybe giving yourself the reward that you need at the end of it will help for you to maintain the momentum. One disclaimer. While I have all the compassion in the world for when you fall off the bandwagon, because I've done it and will do it again, and I've done it in many other facets of my life, I don't want you to rest on your laurels. I don't want you to use it as an excuse for not doing it. I don't want you to continue to fall into the rut and to say, well, you know, everyone does it. I'm doing it, therefore it's okay. Okay? Yes, it's important to have self-compassion and to be kind, but also know about and remind yourself of the great strength and power that you have within yourself, of the things that you have accomplished. Think of what's strong and not wrong with yourself. I love this expression. Wish I could have been the one to come up with it. But when we focus on what's strong within ourselves, we start to identify how we can use our current skills and strength to help us address some of our perhaps more weak points. I'm not trying to label it good or bad. It is, but we do have elements of ourselves that need growth, and strengthening. And so how do we take what we're really, really good at and leverage that to make that happen? To know that we do have this power within us, that we have this deep intuitive knowledge of who we are if we choose to create the space, if we utilize the tools to become the observer of the observer, if we allow ourselves the opportunity to feel it so that we can heal it, to remind ourselves of all that we are, will be very helpful to you as you move through this and continue to maintain the practice. So your homework. What? Homework? On the last one? Of course there's homework on the last one. There's been homework all throughout. I've got to be consistent. So your homework is invite a friend over for meditation and Merlot. And they are not going to say no when you offer wine at the other end. If they're not a drinker, give them something that they'll want. A sweet, a tea, a hug, whatever it is. The more than likely, if it's your best buddy, which I hope that all of us have one best buddy, even if it's just one, my hope is that your best buddy is not going to say no. And then I encourage you to open up, to share what this experience has been like for you, to bring them into the fold, to talk to them about the power of community. And maybe your version of community is that one person, or maybe your version of community is that you've got to go to a group meditation series. Whatever it is, you've got to find the one that works for you. Lastly, I want you to trust yourself. Talked a little bit about that, about your power. I don't want you to lose faith in yourself. I don't want you to lose faith if you forget about this or don't integrate it for a few days or weeks or months. But that you can do this anytime and all the time. You can feel the water on your hands when you're washing your hands or doing the dishes. You can feel the earth beneath your feet if you choose to walk barefoot, maybe in the winter, okay? If you have winter. If you don't, you are lucky, okay? So there are ways that you can bring it informally into your everyday, even if you can't bring in that formal practice. So trust yourself. Don't lose faith. Tune into that power and that inner strength that you have. And I want to say thank you so much for tuning into this series. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to hear how your journey continues.